Welcome, welcome. I am add my image overlay here. Oops. No, no, no. This is always the amateur hour um part. Okay. I am here. I am joined I'm here with Trey the Explainer. We are hanging out and
Hello,
ch-
hello.
chatting about random stuff. We were actually talking about um I was saying that anytime, like, if you're going on to if you're graduating college, to definitely take a couple of years and do whatever you like, because you can then go to grad school and it's your reset button. So you know do something crazy because you've got that reset button, if you're able to, like, take 2 years. I mean, there's all sorts of people that are like, well, I've got to fucking work and pay off student loans and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, right. I'm sorry. If you have a little bit of privilege, like, to then to do something crazy for 1 or 2 years, and then if it doesn't work out, you've got your reset button, and then you can be like, restart grad school. And the one advantage as well, I would say, that of being the one advantage of being a person who can have children is you can do the same with children. You can be like, that's two reset buttons. You're like, you know what? I tried doing X. I didn't like it. It sucked. Then I went to grad school and I went into Y. It sucked. I guess I'm gonna have fucking kids. Like, that's your second reset button.
Especially if you've got that good YouTube money cash flowing in, you can definitely be expendable with your time. It would be good to try new stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So it's yeah, it's definitely something to do. It's definitely something to think about. Yeah. So I hope, Bakura, that you, wow, what coincidence. I'm literally applying to grad school this year, lol. I hope you did something crazy, or you found out something that you hate. Because life is mostly about finding out what you hate and doing something that you don't hate. It's not necessarily find, like, everyone's worried, like, I need to find something I love. It's like, don't worry about finding something you love. Worry about finding something you don't hate. Like, so, I hope you did something crazy. Oh, man. So the Trey, what do you think about George's blog post this week?
Oh, that was rough. That was some rough news right there. It was like just like like it was just confirming what I think everybody suspected. Um, I guess it was even worse than what I suspected because he essentially implied that he hadn't worked at all on wins for all of 2021, which was a rough one.
Yeah, you are right that it was something that we kind of all suspected. Like, it's like you get this. It's like you get this inkling that your significant other is cheating on you, and you're like, oh, I know they're cheating on me. I just know it. And then you catch them, and it's actually like they're cheating on you with like four people, and you're like, no, my suspicions were correct, but it's even worse than I thought.
They're cheating on you with ET spin-off series.
Oh my gosh, yes, an ET spin-off series, and Dunkin' Egg, and
Corlys Velaryon and Blood and Fire.
yeah, yeah, it's tough.
It was pretty bad. Like, what did he? Less is not none. That's a rough one right there. It's like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some people are positive, so I'll bring up Dragon Demands is more positive on it. Like, he thinks that
mm,
look, the George is writing at the same slow pace as always. It doesn't mean the book isn't coming out. The prequel pitches, like, do look kind of cool. I'm not denying any of that, but I would have really liked more progress in 2021 and some sort of
mm,
light at the end of the tunnel. Like, even if you had thrown me a copium bone of, like, I maybe early 2023, maybe late 2023, I've been like, okay, all right, but no. And then he would have fooled me again because 2023 would have come and it wouldn't have been there. But
Because I remember he claimed that it would come out in 2021, and that just didn't come to pass.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, he's said so many years. Like, oh God, did all of you see Glidus's um uh little video? Oh my gosh, it's good
I
enough.
did not. What did he say? What did he do?
Let me let me see if I can. I don't know if I should just bring up the page of it. It's pretty funny. His little thing on it. Let's see here.
George, look.
I've got to. Yeah, yeah. You know what's coming. Okay, here we go. Let's see. All right, here we go. Let's shrink me for a second here. Oh, Galitas. Here we go. I thought this was pretty funny. Here we go.
George, look what you've done. You've made us angry, George. We want a bookie book, Georgium, but instead you give us a depressing blog. Less is not none, but wins is not done.
Well, let's see what he's been up to in the meantime then.
Oh, perfect! A lavish coffee table book. It will go great with my lavish coffee table and my no wins. You're thinking of calling the second Fire and Blood, Blood and Fire instead? I'm thinking of calling my suicide note Waiting for Wins. A show about Corlys Velaryon sounds cool, but what sounds cooler is a book about the winds of far. A show about Nymeria? Good idea. I've got a better one. A book about 6 years ago. You'd better write more Dunk and Egg before they finish the show. You'd better write some more books before they finish the show, George.
A Minecraft parody about Hot Pie. Oh, the Rome guy is doing the Corlys one. That actually sounds pretty fucking dope.
Yeah. Oh, and then they give me like Taiwanese commercials afterwards.
Oh, I get some Pokemon cards.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
really funny. Oh my
Oh
god.
my gosh.
Oh, I guess what really kind of like was upsetting was his like he said he got less is not none, but then he got a couple hundred pages of the Blood and Fire or whatever it's called done, which is like okay, so he's working, just not working on the stuff we want.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I was super depressed about the fact that he shifted to saying it's all his number one priority. Like, oh God, like that. We know what that means. Um,
yeah.
George R. R. Martin probably wants more human contact, which he's getting from these projects, especially after the death of his friends, writing the Winds of Winter, Dream of Snow, Dream of Snow, Spring implies isolation. No, that's probably very accurate. I mean, let's be honest. Like these projects seem a lot more fun. Like, which would you rather
Mhm.
do? Like, sit in a room for hours on end by yourself, like on some book that you've grown to hate, or like hang out with people in Hollywood and like rub elbows with like all these fun writers who are like energized and young and who all are super positive, not like
Go
wins
on fancy dinners.
go to
And
fancy
and w-
dinners.
and Winds of Winter is it's probably like a depressing book. It's probably like one of the most depressing storylines he's going down at this point because
You
it's the
don't think the Forsaken chapter was just good old fun?
it's some of the darkest, most depressing shit I've ever read. It's like, oh god, it makes me wonder. Like, George, are you okay? Like,
I mean, the Forsaken chapter really like hit me because I'm like, I mean, I think it with Mercy, and I'm just like, oh my god, like when you like, because you can take like you can say, okay, Elaine chapter is not that dark, but it's set up to a point where it could be really dark, and then, um, the battle stuff, like it's battle, it should be dark, even though you're kind of excited about battle, but like Mercy is just straight up dark. And Forsaken is just straight up dark, and you're like, oh my gosh, like things could get really, really bad at this point.
yeah,
Which I think that's the point. This is like what do they call the second act when things get really, really sad for people. And
yeah. It's like Empire. It's like going to be like Empire Strikes Back, where it's the
right.
low point.
Right.
Yeah.
The sixth book of the seventh is usually the second act.
Oh, yeah. Forsaken is I think one of his roughest stuff, but I think it's like one of his best like chapters too, where it's just it's about like redemption
Yeah.
and going through hard times and finding like the light. I guess I don't know.
I mean, maybe
It's interesting.
maybe I'm biased because I just remember the feeling I had when I like being there, listening to him read it for the first time. But I do think it's his best written chapter. I actually
Hmm.
do think it's his best written chapter, which is like pretty great. That like even though he probably wrote it at the same time as A Dance with Dragons, like it's pretty great that like something so late has such a high quality
Yeah,
of writing. Um,
yeah,
so
and
as of 11 years ago, he still had it. He still had it 11 years ago.
well, like Euron is such a great villain. He's like psychotic. He's like a great sort of ramp up of villains that we've got,
Yeah,
and we've just seen so little.
and I also really enjoy having a psychotic protagonist. Like Aaron
Yeah.
is psychotic as well, you know? And you're just like, oh man, but you do feel for him obviously because like
Mm.
you're in his mind and you're like, oh god, I hope he gets out of this and I hope he lives. But man, he's nuts,
That's why the Greyjoy family just has like the best chapters. I think they just because they're all nutty weirdos that are just insane.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, in my opinion, Theon was the best story of A Dance with Dragons, and I think Theon overall is probably the best character, and I mean, I've heard people say this to George, and him being like, "Why do you like Theon? That's fucked up." Like, and it's like I like Theon because he's flawed, and his inner monologue is sometimes arrogant, sometimes insecure, just like real human beings inner monologues, like we're
Mhm.
all over the place inside. And I love that about Theon, that the fact that he's so
Yeah.
flawed, but and has so many hangups and baggage and complexes and stuff like that. But um do you think
What do you mean you don't like Aaron or Arya Hota? Is he not your favorite POV character?
Ariel Hota is like famously the I mean, we have to say that Ariel Hota is the worst written like
Yeah.
point of view character. I think that most fans agree on that, but I think he has potential. I think the whole, I think he they're setting up the fact that he's going to all of a sudden like enter the fray and stop being just a follower and have an
Mm.
opinion. I hope. God, it would be really
Yeah.
rough
I
if
hope
like
the nickname he has, the camera that rides. I think I saw
that
someone use
rides. Yeah.
it. He's gonna fight Darkstar, right? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, I actually had a literal shower thought. I was in the shower last night
Oh,
thinking
nice.
about Area Hotas, because we were talking, the obviously, I've been thinking about this fan fiction project um, and which stuff we should tackle after Danny, and I do think that. Ariel Hota is an interesting one because it's one that because we have so little information. It's one that very very few people have thought about
Hmm.
and on what would happen like with Ariel Hota, and so I do wonder if we should like you know focus on Ariel Hota's sample chapter next, or uh, um,
I feel like it has to be about Ashara Dane and learning that sort of mystery that happened there. I feel like that might be part of it.
yeah, I do think that like as I was saying, like you need to have when we do the Ariel Hota outline, it has to have Ariel Hota kind of questioning um, Doran Martell, becoming his own person, discovering that like Darkstar is innocent, at least. Uh,
Hmm.
you know, even if Darkstar, discovering something about the Danes, that Arthur Dane is not that great or whatever. Um, but but I have no idea what Darkstar would reveal about the Danes. You know, it's
Right.
like I kind of know that like Darkstar would reveal that he's innocent, and Arrow Hota would understand that Darkstar is innocent and need to and start questioning Dorn Martell. I think Darkstar will probably die, get killed by Obara Sand or something.
Mm.
But I haven't really thought about like what would go on after that. You know.
Yeah, me neither. I was thinking maybe it might have to do with the lemon tree. I don't know if that's in Dorne, I guess.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
it's there's a lot of open space for, you're right, that he hasn't fleshed out that much about where that
Mm.
story's going.
Yeah, yeah. Or like Ashara Dane danced at the Harrenhal tourney with I think she danced with Connington and Oberyn Martell. And like it's like scraping the bottom of the barrel, like, like
They might have went to the same dinner once. Like... Because they're not going to Starfall. They're going to High Hermitage. Or are they going? Where are they going?
Yeah, they're supposedly going to High Hermitage.
Okay. What's there? I don't even know what's there. There's nothing there.
Yeah. I'll get to Keegan asks here, do you think D&D made Varys the book's character for Marwyn? Like perhaps George revealed the Marwyn's character bestowed on Varys. I mean, I think, Keegan, that you're correct that like Marwyn would arrive and be an advisor to like maybe Tyrion would end up ruling something or controlling something in Marine. Like I thinking about the Dany chapter and how long it would take for Dany to go to Vastoth Rock, and then how long it would take all of the Khalasars to make to Vastoth Rock. I realized that like, man, Dany has to be in Vastoth Rock for at minimum a month, just on the time period of everybody coming back. So there's no way she's going to make it back for the Battle of Fire. So like we can't think that she's just going to come in and flame everybody at the end of that battle and change things. And so who's going to be ruling Marine until Dany comes back? Maybe it will be like the show and it'll be Tyrion ruling the city alone. I don't know. And then who would be his advisor? Would Marwyn show up? I don't know. I mean,
the thing with... Oh, sorry, you go first.
No. I think Skahaz would be ruling Marine, right?
Yeah, and maybe she just kills him. She gets back and sees that he's like a traitor, I guess.
Yeah.
The thing with Marwyn that's interesting is that like he doesn't appear to be mentioned by Quaithe in like the little visions that she has where she's giving Dany a warning of... She mentions Jon Con and Aegon and Tyrion and Victarion, and then she mentions who's the wizard priest guy, the priest Makoro. But she doesn't mention Marwyn, which is weird because Marwyn said he was on his way to see her at the end. So
that's true. I mean,
I just wonder where he is.
But I guess she wouldn't need to know not to trust him if she never runs into him.
Yeah, I've heard like a theory that Makoro is Marwyn in disguise.
Yeah, I was trying to think like timeline wise if it would work. I've thought about that one before. Because there's some small inconsistencies between Makoro in the Tyrion chapter and Makoro in the Victarion chapter. Like his tattoos are a different color and his skin tone is a little different and things like that. And so people are like, oh, is his glamour a little different or something? So
yeah.
Maybe
I read his George's other story, The Night at the Tarn House. There's a wizard character with like an M name that sounds similar to Makoro. I guess he's kind of similar to Makoro, and he's also glamour too, so it made me make that connection, but I don't know if that's valid or not.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been a long time since I read Night at the Tarn House, but you're right that I think I thought of the same thing. Because
that's funny.
It's hard not to when you're um, it's hard not to when the names were so similar. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Malicos, or
Yeah.
something like that. Makora,
Hmm.
Malicos, kind of similar. They're both like wizards.
Yeah, no, I mean that'd be interesting. That'd be probably better if he were Makoro, just because we got too many characters. Got to start having some people. Volkos.
Because you're right. Like, what's Makoro gonna do? He's gonna, I guess, corrupt Danny and turn her into like a follower of the Red God. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Somebody asked, why would Hota have a change of character at 50? What would be the motivations? Just Darkstar? Doran literally sent his son on a suicide quest some random night being innocent. I think that I think that there is a little bit of parallel with um, uh, Hota and Jorah Mormont falling in love with a young princess kind of idea. Like I think that Hota, whether it's actually like a sexual feeling like Jorah has, I think feels very very attached to Ariana, and I think he
Mm.
doesn't like the idea that these people are pawns in Doran Martell's game, and that he's perhaps you know um, sacrificing people and harm could come to her. I think that if there's going to be a motivation, it's that.
Mm.
And he's an old grizzled warrior who's still really good, but old and grizzled like Jorah Mormont. And you have to remember that, like, when Feast for Crows came out in what, '05, so uh, George himself was in his mid to late 50s, so it's like, how you can't be writing a character around that age and not be thinking of yourself when you're around that age. And if he can change, and certainly certainly George has changed.
Preston, by the way, I wanted to mention that when we did the podcast a while ago, and you asked me about the square versus round towers,
Yeah.
I went back and I looked back at the sources. So Jamie, for people that don't know, Jamie mentions that Raventree has square towers, and he mentions that this is a old development. Like, towers used to be built this way, but with new information, towers were built to be round to deflect catapults and stuff. And this is a thing that I've researched, and this is a thing that actually occurred in real history. People still continue to build square towers for like aesthetic reasons, but for the most part, people changed to round ones. And so this is interesting. So I looked at it, and I remember something in the World of Ice and Fire book mentioning bringing up the round versus square towers thing. And it shows up in the Winterfell chapter of the World of Ice and Fire book. And it says, oldest of these, they're talking about the freestanding buildings within Winterfell. Oldest of these, a long abandoned tower, round and squat and covered with gargoyles, has become known as the First Keep. So this is the tower that Bran, I think, falls off of in the first book.
It's round.
Oh, no, and it keeps on going. He goes, some take this to mean that it was built by the first men, but Maester Kennett has definitively proven that it could not have existed before the revival of the Andals, since the first men and early Andals raised square towers and keeps. Round towers came somewhat later.
So George is definitely like fucking with us with regards to like timeline and technological development and things like that.
Yes, it's brought up twice, so it has to be significant, I guess.
Plus, like, Storm's End has a round drum tower in the middle. So
you're right, yeah, and
so,
that's a first men construction too. So
yeah.
I don't know what it means though. This George is setting up time travel in Bran, I guess, like the architect.
Yeah, I mean, I just think just the existence of Storm's End and the wall and stuff shows that the past was more technologically advanced than the present. And fantasy lovers will be like, well, it's just because they had really good magic back then. They had stone magic and could teleport stuff, and and You're like, really? They had magic that made iron. They had magic that made steel, and then they just lost it and went back to bronze. Fucking steel magic. No one ever talks about steel magic. Their freaking water magic and wood magic, stuff like that. No one talks about their steel magic. I use magic to create steel. I don't need an underground blast furnace. Um, MS Paul says the next chapter should be on a character people like Ariana 3. That would be something. I see. I've been thinking about that as well. Like when we see the Battle of Storm's End, the Battle of Steel, as I like to call it, like should it be from John Con or Ariana's perspective? Like which is more interesting? Or both. You go back and forth between their perspectives in the fight. So I don't know. But yeah, there's so many that I want to see, right? Like the ones I've been really thinking about. Like I think the one I want to see the most that would simultaneously be the most difficult chapter is Samwell. Samwell would be 100% the most difficult chapter to write. So many moving parts, and it's also the one that I want to read the most. And then there's ones that are like a little bit easier. Like I kind of think that say planning the next Victarion chapter would be a little easier just because I kind of know what Victarion would be doing. Like he captures a dragon that's trying to eat some pork on his ship, and then he turns around and he sails back to Westeros.
You're right that the Sam chapter is definitely the most interesting and crazy one because there's the Faceless Men, there's Euron, there's the Maester conspiracy stuff. You're right. Yeah. That's going to be challenging.
Not to mention, Brave Companions.
Oh yeah, you're right. The Zolo the Fat is there too, right? Oh my god.
Yeah, or at least he wasn't named by name, but it might certainly Urswick the Faithful is said to be heading that way, and he was a leader, so he might be leading a whole bunch of others. Urswick the Faithful was the number 2. So he was kind of so. Yeah, we'll see. John Con would know the plan. Ariana wouldn't. Ben makes a good point. Ariana would be more interesting because she doesn't know the plan. Like if John Con knows the plan, he gives away the game. You're right. That at least the big change and the big secret has to be from her perspective. Yeah, Ben's correct. Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Fans, what about Magnum Opus? GR, I don't want it. Yeah, people make a lot of changes in life, day to day, what's important day to day. People can be in denial about how much time they have and things like that. That it'll eventually get around to it, or somehow wait for that motivation. Yeah. Or the old video on brain crack that if when you actually create something, it can be criticized and torn apart, and there's a possibility that it can fail, but if it's in your head, it's still perfect. And so it's gonna be done in the future, and so it can still be perfect, and so you can still feel good about it. And that's the brain crack. Let's see here. Is Victarion dead? He is being last narrated as third person. That's so there is this weird. So normally from point of view chapters, and we have to kind of even bring up the end of Victarion, A Dance with Dragons, not to be confused with Victarion Winds of Winter. But in the very last sentence, or the last couple sentences, Victarion goes into his room to have something happen to him, to have his hand dealt with and there's this idea that actually is that even one chapter back?
I
But
think it might be two.
yeah, two chapters
One
back
chapter.
before he gets
No.
his hand done. Some people think that like his he's that it's shifted. Okay, so the actual thing is so this is weird because it's true that George R. R. Martin has never really um had a chapter like this where it ends, where it kind of ends like this. So Makoro bowed his head, his dark eyes shining. So be it. The Iron Captain was not seen again that day, but as the hours passed, the crew of the Iron Victory reported hearing the sound of wild laughter coming from the captain's cabin. Laughter deep and dark and mad. And when Longwater Pike and Wolf One Ear tried the cabin door, they found it barred. Later, singing was heard, a strange high wailing song in the tongue of the maester said was High Valerian. That was when the monkeys left the ship, screeching as they leapt into the water. Come sunset, as the sea turned black as ink and the swollen sun tinted in the sky a deep and bloody red, Victarion came back on deck. He was naked from the waist up. His left arm, it'd be funny if it was like he was naked from the waist down. His left arm, blood to the elbow. As his crew gathered, whispering and trading glances, he raised a charred and blackened hand. Wisps of dark smoke rose from his fingers as he pointed at the maester. That one, cut his throat and throw him from the sea, and the winds will favor us all the way to Marine. Makaro had seen that in his fires, and had seen the wench wed too, but what of it? She would not be the first woman Victarion had made a widow. So it's this second to last paragraph of The Iron Suitor, where events are happening outside of his point of view, and so it's very very weird. Now it is true that this is all sounds like Mary Masdor ululating. It's definitely supposed to be a parallel to the tent, and in fact it makes me wonder about that tent situation too. Now I'm like, got to bring up Danny.
I've never seen this before. This looks really helpful. What is this? Search of Ice and Fire?
Oh,
That's
Search of
awesome.
Ice and Fire. Yeah, it's a helpful little thing. I wish it would be updated with Fire and Blood, and it doesn't have all the sample chapters because it only has the sample chapters that were officially released. So it doesn't have like Forsaken.
Oh.
And I wish it had Fire and Blood, but I also wish it had like the most recent version of the text, because certain books have been changed. But let's see here. Bring her, because I want to say Jorah walked back into the tent when Danny was passed out, and it's from Daenerys' perspective. So I think was that Jorah walked back into the tent? I'm thinking that line. It's not that, but it's something like, I think Jorah walks back into the tent.
Or entered the tent or something like that.
Yeah. You know, she's there's something like that there. So I want to say that there is something maybe from the Daenerys perspective of being in the third person that shouldn't be in the third person, but I just think it's just a little. I don't think there's much to it. I think it's just George didn't know what to do. Yes, it's supposed to be from perspectives, but for a moment he makes it omnipotent perspective just for a second. Yeah, this is it. So, yeah, Ser Jorah carried her inside the tent. That's the one we're looking for. Is the text. Let's make sure we get that. So, like, every once in a while, in these two situations, you get. Yeah, there it is. Okay. No, she shouted. She only thought it. She whispered for the sound to escape her lips. She was carried, her eyes open to gaze at the flat, dead sky. Black and beak starless. Please no. She screamed the dancers. I guess one could argue that Daenerys was still awake. Or something. Yeah. Maybe that's not third person. I don't know. I don't know. Could be. It's a little weird. It's a little weird that Victarion goes to third person omnipotent, but I don't know. We don't get any really proof that he's dead after that.
Yeah, I guess it's just to keep the mystery of what Makoro did, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like there's a lot of these so there are questions about whether Septim Ordain, like who is Septim Ordain? I mean Septa Lemore on with Tyrion going down the Rhoyne. And so a lot of people are like, well, could she be a Shara Dane? Now, I don't necessarily think she's a Shara Dane, but at the same time, like, I can't say we can dismiss it. And the argument for dismissing it would be, well, Tyrion was with her all this time. You'd think in his point of view, he would have mentioned that she has haunting purple eyes. Like, come on, she can't be a Shara Dane. The lack of evidence, shows that. And it's like, well, George just writes what George is going to write. Like in Bran's perspective, when he falls from the tower, he never calls Jamie. He just calls him the man. And then when thinking about him, he only thinks about him as the golden man. You'd think he fucking knows who Jamie Lannister is. At some point, he would say, oh, right. Like, Jamie Lannister pushed me from a tower, but he doesn't. Because George is going to write what George is going to fucking write. At that moment, he wanted it a mystery, somewhat of a mystery, of who is throwing Bran from the tower. The first time you read it, your brain isn't working that fast, and you're like, I don't know who's throwing Bran from a tower. And it takes a little time to piece it together that it's actually Jamie. Because George is just going to fucking write that. But if it's actually from Bran's perspective, it should be, that's Jamie fucking Lannister, the brother of the queen.
I never actually realized that. You're right. That he doesn't name him. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And he totally would know because they met him in the yard and then during the feast and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Or like after that, like Bran never thinks about the fact that like that of what's beyond the barrier of light that the Three-Eyed Crow brought him to, the reason he's supposed to like save the world and keep him alive. Like Bran never thinks about that for 5 fucking books, 4 books because he's not in the 4th one. But like, oh really? The most important thing you've ever seen in your goddamn life, you're never gonna think about? Like, okay.
I guess people have said that about Varys or Varys, like that nobody describes his eye color, so he could be like a secret Targaryen or Blackfire. So he's leaving the door open, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. People are just weird. Tyrion does perv on her, someone naked. He describes her body. He describes her pregnancy scar. But he doesn't ever describe her eye color. But could we be discuss? Oh, witnessing Victarion's out of body. That's an interesting idea because, like, when people are doing these weird, magical situations, like there are out of body experiences in this story. So maybe Victarion's essence is like wider and is viewing everything from above. Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. That would explain things. I mean, I like that explanation better than Victarion is secretly dead. And that this is the Iron Suitor and Victarion. The chapter actually named Victarion is really like Wolf One Ear, or whatever. Some Victarion Smith who Victarion Pike, a random other guy on the boat who's watching everything from the corner.
Could POV like one of those guys that are going to blow the horn? That'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. Thrall, the Thrall number 2. Um, the monkeys were laughing at Victarion. Then they jumped to their death. The next chapter is named Victarion. He is freed from Euron's grasp. I mean, I definitely think that, yeah, the naming of Victarion's chapter is representing that he's no longer a puppet of Euron and that he's his own man. It seems to be the pattern of when people's names return to them. I guess we've only really seen it with Theon and Victarion. I mean, if the Barristan sample chapter is Barristan, then it would be Barristan as well. Like he's no longer the servant of Dany. He's his own. He's coming into his own and becoming his own person. If Barristan's chapters are actually named Barristan, so Barristan would return and regain his name. Ariana actually would regain her name too. Sorry, if her chapters are her chapters. Victarion regains his name and Theon regains his name, right? Is that the because Arya is still Arya, Elaine is still Elaine, and I think that's it. Yeah. What's the motivation for the fan novel? I understand that the novels are very important to many, but if it's not George's writing, it's just not the same. Yeah, it's not. It's not the same. But I just a lot of people were really upset, and I just wanted something that was fun, that could get people excited and stay engaged. And chances are we'll do a few of these, and then maybe George will announce the Winds of Winter or something, or we'll get or people will lose interest or something. But it's just something fun that people can put their mind into and have fun with. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's why do people write fan fiction or write do fan art and stuff like that? I think it's fun just to put these ideas together in one place and have something to think about. People were really down, especially me, after the blog post this week. So I don't know. Thought it was fun.
I like it. I like that you're using like a whole bunch of diverse ideas and opinions. I think that's really great. Like really cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for it. One is just that it has collective fan community ownership, but a lot also has to do with like copyright, like. So fan fiction and fan art, like there's disputes about how illegal it is, obviously, there can be no money to be made from, anything. All of the videos that I'm posting about the fan fiction are not monetized. Like the idea is that there's going to be zero profits, zero money being made on this endeavor. It's completely for fun, because that's a big thing about copyright, is whether or not somebody is profiting off of somebody else's work. So, and this is very different from analysis commentary, which is allowed under copyright. So like my other stuff, like theory videos or whatever, reviews, that's different because that's commentary analysis. But when we're talking about fan fiction, like you're not allowed to profit off of somebody else's work. So there's going to be no money involved. And then it's also like if it's collectively done, collective ownership, like who can you really blame? Who can you blame? But I want something that fans can feel is somewhat theirs. If a lot of people contribute, you get to say, oh, this was my idea. Like this is really cool, and it's there's gonna be this fan fiction tome like floating around the internet that people might read and think about. So I just think that's a cool idea and something for people to look forward to. That's all.
Yeah.
Trey already had his input. His Trey pointed out to me that Tyrion passes by a a sphinx with a woman's face, and uh, Illyrio says that the male version was dragged back to Vastoth Rock, and he's like, dude, you've got to have Danny see.
It's set up. They got that thing set up. George likes those where he mentions something offhandedly, randomly, and then like later it comes up. You're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, exactly.
The mystery of that Sphinx. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is.
This is funny. This is funny but true. Who can you blame? The guy who will inevitably be blamed. That's true. That's true. Oh, I saw something funny here.
Is it the Saturn X John fan fiction? Have you seen those on the internet where people make like DeviantArt fan art of them together? It's pretty
No,
funny.
no.
If you just look up Satin, A Song of Ice and Fire or whatever,
Oh
there's
gosh.
like all these weird fan edits where like they take like the real actors, they'll take like Ezra Miller or Timothy Chalamet or something like that, and they'll edit them together. Like that's John and Satin together.
Oh, really? Oh man, this is awesome. Okay. We gotta show people this. Oh man, I have not seen the incredible world of Satin John shipping. Oh man, this is great. Let me move this to the side here.
It's like, how specific fan art can you get? Like,
oh, this is so fantastic. Yeah, John Satin, the love. There's like more of these than there is of like Rhaegar and Lyanna. Oh, John and Satin, the love story of the ages. I do think that. So I've said this a lot. I mean, I don't know like when we're going to get to the Melisandre chapter, but I do kind of feel that like spoiler for fan fiction, that I just don't see John like coming back as a human being, at least in the Winds of Winter, and so like maybe he can be in Ghost as like his living a second life, but I don't want to have John chapters, which I think would just, I mean, the Winds of Winter is already crowded. We've got too many people, so you've got to So when you do have like the Wall, and who's going to be characters there in Melisandre's perspective, like Satin should be a big one, right?
Satin is still at the Wall. He was his steward, right? Or his like squire or something.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's his steward. And so some people are like, "Oh, is he the perfumed seneschal?" Okay, But it's an interesting idea that like, okay, if John was chosen to be steward, because Mormont saw leadership potential in John, and it's really Aemon saw it and then talked to Mormont. But nonetheless, if that's the idea, that you see leadership potential in somebody, Satin is John's steward. He must see leadership potential. Of course, this theory falls apart when you think that Dolorous Ed was G.R. Mormont's steward before John's.
I don't know, but remember in the show, Ed becomes the Lord Commander just like randomly, just without even a vote.
You are right. I mean, show Dolorous Ed and book Dolorous Ed are just the most different characters that you could possibly. I'm trying to think of anybody that's that different. Like which characters in the show did they make so incredibly different from the books? Is Dolorous Ed like the worst example? I mean, Dagmar Cleftjaw. Is completely, utterly different.
He's still alive, or where is Dagmar in the show? Did he die?
Dagmar leaves, and then I think there might be some reference later that they were all skinned, that they
Oh,
left and then they were skinned by Ramsay or something in a betrayal. But yeah, they knock Theon out and then leave. Is the last time we
I
see the
thought it would be
actor.
a Sir Ilyn Payne sort of situation where they never got him. He just got away.
I mean, there's no
I love
100% proof that like every one of them was gotten or something. Like you could make an
that.
argument that he survived. But yeah, he's just so different than show Dagmar. Um, Maybe a Song of Ice and Fire's ending would nullify the other stories, like introduce the multiverse, which you
Oh
don't do at the
God.
start of a cinematic universe.
Oh God.
Everybody's doing multiverse too, man. Oh god, like it's amazing that like every channel on TV wants to do cinematic universe, and then they want to do multiverse cinematic universe so that they can write whatever stories they want.
Oh.
Uh,
uh,
um,
somebody said what did they say, Yee-Tee they're gonna make, that's what that spin-off is gonna be. It's gonna be a gay romance on set in Yee-Tee. That'd be great. There you go.
I mean, that would make it more interesting. I don't know. I just
Something.
do they. It's so. I mean, are people? Do you think that it's been so much time that people don't get that ET is a the least veiled like reference to ET the extraterrestrial like that could ever been written? I mean, you.
I heard in the audiobook, what's his name? Ooh, the old guy. The old guy who
Roy
died.
Dotrice. Roy
Roy
Dotrice.
Dotrice. Roy Dotrice says Yai Tai at one point, so I don't know. It's his, that
Yeah,
might just be his.
Roy Dotrice. He's definitely had some weird pronunciation. I mean, George himself has weird pronunciation. The fact that he says Dothraki and stuff like that, which I'm just like, how are you pronouncing your own creation incorrectly? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, an e ending is like, you know, Arabic and other languages like reference to plurality. So like for nationality, thus like Iraqi, Omani, Yemeni, Dothraki, like it's just so there. I would never look at an I on the end of a word and be like Dothraki, but that's what he does. He calls them the Dothraki. But I'm trying to think of another word where there's an I on the end where you just kind of go I. But mm, I mean, like there's words like Y that have a Y on the end, but I don't know. Maybe I'm sure somebody could come up with one, but Dothraki. But yeah, Roy Dotrice had some weird ones. He said Brian.
Oh yeah.
He would occasionally say Jeffrey. Um,
Yes.
uh, Carmine constantly makes fun of me for saying Varys, or he's like, "You mean Varys?" And I was like, "I just say Varys. I don't know. Everybody can get angry at me. I say Ariana. I still put an on the end, even though it has an e ending." Um, I found it interesting that you're having cows do marriage alliances, and I thought cow takeovers usually involved enslavement. Um, yeah, I just figured that uh, I really wanted with the outline for Daenerys, I really wanted a parallel of a kind of young new queen, like a Marjorie kind of situation, where the entire ceremony is done again, but through Daenerys's eyes. Um, One of the things I actually kind of liked about the show's explanation, I didn't include it in the outline, but I kind of liked the show's explanation of when she mentioned in the show that the stallion that mounts the world prophecy was said, and Josh Kalina are like, dude, we say that at every ceremony. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're not special. She's like, oh, like I actually thought that was a pretty good idea, but I didn't include it. I guess I kind of like had got myself in the headcanon of Jorah Mormont being paying people for it being more interesting. Though I did like the shows explanation of the stallion, the mouse of the world. Like everybody's the stallion, the mouse of the world. Like you're not special. And so I guess that idea bled into my head. Like, oh, what if Dany were viewing a ceremony from a completely different, younger, better queen, and to make her feel like she's not special, what would be another kick in the gut? You're having your blood riders are killed. You're you don't have your dragon. You're enslaved by the Dosh Kaleen, essentially. What can make it worse? Oh, right. Like your little ceremony, it was nothing. Okay. You're nothing special. And so that was part of it. But this idea that like, oh, could the Culls do marriage alliances? I think why not? Like I never really liked like George making the Dothraki into just savages that couldn't understand things like commerce. Like, oh no, Dothraki give gifts. Like they don't. Vaes Dothrak has an Eastern and Western market, and you're telling me that they don't understand how like currency and commerce work? Like, come on, I kind of wanted it to be Westerners orientalizing the Dothraki, that the Dothraki are actually smarter and savvier and more intricate than Western eyes are willing to accept, that they're not this savage people, that they have a lot of intricacy to their and nuance to their culture. So I kind of wanted that in there, but that's kind of what I was going for. Plus it makes things easier, Calpuno, if he slaughters another Khalasar to the man, would somebody try to be a little savvy rather than just, no, I'm Dothraki, I must die. Grah, Klingon. Like I never liked Klingons for that reason. Like, okay, you're this warrior people. Who are the people that are like building your spaceships? Like, who are the scientists inventing warp drives? Like, how can you all be warriors? Like, somebody has to be sitting there going, I think the warrior's way is to research warp technology. Let me go into my room and study. Like that's got to be that's something that has to happen. What qualities in a book series would cause you guys to analyze and make videos over, like A Song of Ice and Fire? Hoping someone writes another series to obsess over. I think it's just the detail and the fact that like George writes in such incredible detail with so many possibilities. It has to do with his gardening technique where he like puts something in that could be many things. And so like when people say like, oh, is Quentin alive or Quentin dead? It's like, I don't even know if George knows the answer, but he wrote it in a fashion where, you get to debate it. You get to think about it. You get to wonder. And, he gets to go either way. He doesn't want to, so it's, so I think just, I don't necessarily, he never thought that it would lend well to theorizing and debate, but it's one of the things that like is the result of having so many years between the next books where people have the time to go back and read it and be like, oh, there's this little detail here I didn't see. Theon was having sex with the miller's wife. I guess that means could one of the miller's kids be Theon's son? Let's think about that.
Yeah, for me, it's also, the ambiguity that he keeps with a lot of stuff, and it makes you just think. And the fact that it seems that he's like an intelligent writer and really does focus on like detail orientation and stuff makes it fun to read, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What do you think Varys' next move will be after taking out Kevin and Pycelle in an attempt to secure the throne for Aegon? I don't even know if I believe Aegon is fake. I think he's going to take advantage of his ambiguity, and we may never find out. We may never find out if Aegon are fake. I mean, he's definitely got Blackfire support, which means some story is getting told to somebody. But he may actually be Rhaegar's kid, or maybe he's nobody. But
yeah. And the thing with Varys, I think he just needs to just sit back and let Cersei destroy things. I think she's doing a fine job by herself.
Yeah, I mean, he loves being in that wall. If he's gonna, you know, we don't talk about Bruno. He loves living in that wall. I hope everybody's seen Encanto. Have you seen it, Trey?
I have not seen it, so I don't get that reference. I feel
Oh
bad.
gosh. So this is life of having a kid, right? So believe it or not, there's actually an entire like Disney theorizing community where like people um, watch Disney movies and then have like fan theories about like different Disney stories. So the latest uh, Disney movie is essentially like the X-Men in Colombia. So there's this family,
Mhm.
and they all have like the X-Men's powers or heroes, NBC's heroes or whatever. It's the same thing. Each person in the family has a power, and one of the dude's powers is he can see the future. Um, you know, and so he sees like save the cheerleader, save the world. He sees something and then he disappears, and the family is like, "Oh, Bruno's gone. We don't talk about Bruno." And they have this incredibly catchy song that will be in your head. Like, I'm warning people, like if you want to like have a song stuck in your head for like the entire year, like Google "We Don't Talk." Okay, but they don't talk about Bruno. But spoiler: you find out that Bruno's been living in the walls for 10 years. Which everybody's like, one of the characters has super hearing, so everybody's like, how did they not know? Like, what were they telling everybody? Like, well, she kind
That
of
sounds
says
like
that
the plot to a horror movie. That sounds scary.
it is the plot to that horror movie. That horror movie about the girl who babysits the doll, and then it turns out that the little boy's at the wall. God, what was that called? You know what I'm talking
I
about?
think it was called yeah, I think it was called The Boy.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean
Oh
the
my
ba-
god, that's
the
awesome.
the basic structure of the story is a completely stolen plot. Like, it's impossible not to be like, this is the plot of Heroes. Like, one of the characters can see the future and everybody else has like superpowers, and like, come on. Like, save the cheerleader, save the world. Um yeah, so Bruno can see the future, and yeah, and you're just like, how did he live in the walls for 10 years and not come out? It's really sad. It's a really sad story when you think about it from that perspective. Like, oh god. The only thing he has to entertain himself is to like make the rats do Latin American telenovelas, like act them out for him, and to spy
Okay.
on his family during meals. Yeah, and like sneak out to get food.
Oh wow.
And so like there's a woman on YouTube who also does like skits of like her listening to, because she has super hearing, like she's also listening to the rat telenovelas and is like super into them. Like, what? Like, it was his twin sister the entire time? No. Like,
That's great. I'll definitely have to check this out. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. You know what? Uh Dario has told us that yes, when you put an I on the end in Latin, it's like plural in Latin, it becomes an I. Right, he's right. You're right. So uh, the what how am I not asparagus becomes asparagus, right? Yes.
Hmm.
Oh, he's right. So if it were Dothraki, if a single Dothraki were a Dothraki, he would be correct that it would become Dothraki. Yes, yes, yes.
That's awful.
Dothrakis, the Dothraki,
Dothrakis.
the Dothra, a single Dothrakis attacked. Why? Why? Oh man. Do you think John's death being done by the end of KW with the intention to turn him into a cold hand character? He didn't feel the fourth stab. The fourth is done. Okay, I've got to figure out. Oh, Night's Watch. Do you think John's death being done by the Night's Watch with the intention of turning him into a cold hand character? He didn't feel the fourth stab. The fourth one being fourth one done with DG. What do you think, DG?
Gee, what would that mean?
Um,
I don't know what that would be.
Figure it out. I'm sure somebody's figured. DG, everyone. I don't know, but Dragon Glass. Yes. Okay, it's Dragon
Dragon.
Glass.
Okay.
Fourth one being done with Dragon Glass. I cannot. It does sound like there's at least some sort of parallel being made, right? Like I don't think that that's happening. Like I don't think that Dragon Glass. I don't think there's a Dragon Glass dagger. I don't think that like the Night's Watch had the intention of turning him into a cold hand character or an undead white. But I think you're on to something that if there really is a Dragon Glass stab like there is in the show, in the book, which there very well may be, I think you're on to a parallel. So I think it's a good. I think you're solid on the parallel, but if you know, but I don't know if I literally think there's a. I just don't see the Night's Watch being aware of that kind of stuff and having Dragon Glass and stabbing him with that and all of that.
Do we know how many like Dragon Glass daggers are in circulation right now? Because I think it's like really few.
I'm trying to think of like yeah, the cash he like just gave him to his friends, right?
Right.
He like passed
and then
them out.
they might have been
Passed-
lost at the Fist of the First Men.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Or he would have left him at Craster's Keep, or did John? Well, John would have found them, and then he would have like I know he passed them out to his friends, and then the question is how many were left over. Let me see here, because I mean, in the short term, the purpose of the Dragon Glass dagger is just, and the cash is just so that Sam needed to have a Dragon Glass dagger so that he could stab the white, obviously. But you know, are there going to be more? Let's see what he did. Let's see how many daggers there could be. He made a dagger for Gren and another for the Lord Commander. He gave Sam a spearhead and a dozen arrowheads and passed the rest out among his friends for luck. So Sam actually didn't even have a dagger. He stabbed the white with a spearhead. And then so the question is, okay, John's friends. So we're talking, and so Pip isn't even on the Great Ranging. So you know, we have to go through like who is John's friends, like who are along, you know, who have then survived, like Sweet Donald Hill. I don't know, like I don't know who the like John's friends. I think of John's friends being like Frog, Pip, and Gren and Sam, and I can't think of maybe a couple other guys, but then it's like how many people die.
Yeah. The whole Dragon Glass thing, I don't really understand George's weird obsession with obsidian as like a thing, like why it's the MacGuffin.
So I did have a weird theory about obsidian and what it is. So like so obsidian is made of mostly silicon. So like silicon is a semiconductor, which means that as it gets hotter, it becomes more conductive of electricity, while as it gets colder, it becomes less conductive, or something like that. I may have it reversed, and it largely doesn't matter if it's reversed or not. But the idea is that somehow by jabbing a semiconductive piece of material in the middle of something that's super cold would do something to disrupt the electricity flow in the other's armor. Something sci-fi shit like that. That's
it. It might have to do with, like, the sharpness of obsidian, because I know that, people in Mesoamerica used obsidian as a weapon and, like, clubs and stuff, and,
Yeah,
like, to make swords, and, like, the edge was, like, almost like almost as sharp as surgical steel, so it
yeah,
was seen as this you couldn't get that sharp unless with this really specific piece of material, which I guess would
definitely.
make sense for Valerian steel swords too, because they're incredibly sharp. So maybe that's it. It's the
Yeah.
sharpness.
So yeah, so everybody's letting me know that I had it the other way around. So like the heat decreases the conductivity, so the cold would make the dragon glass super conductive. So I don't know, like maybe it would screw up all of the electricity flows going on because you're shoving this really conductive absolute zero silicon piece of silicon into the middle of of um of the other. And I also thought about it in the sense that like the dragon glass candles, the glass candles are made of obsidian. And they have their like television things, right? You can see into people's minds. Well, say they're a um, sci-fi piece of technology. Wouldn't a sci-fi piece of technology be filled with silicon chips? So the idea is that like, oh, they're calling it obsidian, but it's actually just silicon. That's like my theory. But you know, I wish I had more. Like I try to do some science research on it, and the problem is that like you start getting into the reality of stuff, which is beyond George's comprehension because he's also just a sci-fi guy. But at the same time, like I was looking for some sort of like simple basic science thing that he could have like latched onto. So that was just my idea that like it's really silicon. These are really silicon chips. You know, if you shove a dragon glass dagger from the Children of the Forest into somebody's heart, you're really shoving in a technological silicon chip for body control because it's like, you know, it's like
Yeah.
the machines from the Corpse Handler trilogy. It's an actual like tech piece of technology that's being shoved into your body to take control of your um, uh, everything and make it so. Yeah, and yeah, obsidian is really really sharp. It's only like a molecule thin and everything. So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, silicon is not glass, but at the same time, it still does. It's obsidian still has a high silicon content. Um, so I'm not saying it's the same silicon ratio as glass, but it still has a good deal. So obsidian is high content of silica. Um, it's got other stuff in it, obviously. It's got silicon, oxygen, aluminum, sodium, and potassium. Um, Mainly consists of silicon dioxide. About 70% of obsidian is silicon dioxide. So, plus you're just going as well with like, um, if you have a layman, these are just laymen sitting there in the woods, and somebody finds an old computer chip. It's gonna have like, and it's made of silicon. It's gonna have the same. He's gonna think it's obsidian. It's gonna have the same color. It's gonna have the same texture. He's not gonna fucking know. So he's gonna be like, "This is silicon." Well, no, it's actually a computer chip.
Mm.
That's the crazy theory. But other people are just like, other people are like magic. You're crazy for trying to have an explanation. It's magic. There's no explanation.
I feel like there's got to be some type of logical explanation, right? It's not just
Yeah,
random.
yeah. That's
Uh,
that's what I'm going with. People are like, you're crazy for believing that it could be there could be a scientific explanation. It's clearly magic. Um, that's the most rational thing. Okay. I mean, maybe that was the way things were back in the day. Like people are like, you know, I have this theory that when you drink like water that's downstream from the village and you get sick, that there might be like tiny little bugs inside that water. And everyone's like, you're ridiculous. It's clearly.
That's funny.
Go on.
That's funny because the World Book like mentions that explicitly that Septon Barth is responsible for doing sewage management, and it's explicitly stated that like it was thought of as magic.
Yeah. Gosh, where am I here? Let's see.
I saw somebody bring up like the smelting dragon glass too. I thought that's kind of funny from the show.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder about what would happen to the chemical composition of obsidian once you. I think somebody said it's pretty much impossible. I think there was an analysis done by some scientist, some science-related person back when they started smelting it in Game of Thrones. That you can't just heat up and melt dragon glass. That would physically change the properties because like you'd be releasing certain stuff or whatever when you melt it down. What qualities in a book? Oh, this is we already got this one. We got have you read the Book of the New Sun and its series by Gene Wolfe? I have not.
Me neither.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll look it up real quick just to. Does this ring a bell for some reason? Book of the New Sun. Chronicles the journey of Severian, a journeyman torturer who's disgraced and forced to wander. He's on a dying Earth. It's listed among the 36 best fantasy novels of all time before the year 1990.
All right.
Okay. It's an interesting like little. Oh, you know, someone did bring this map. So there's a map of like the world, and it's clearly like Latin America and stuff. So I guess, yeah, it's post-apocalyptic. Somebody did bring this up before, and yeah, now I'm realizing why it's ringing a bell. But it's I haven't read it yet, but yeah, it's interesting. Love the work of both of you and Trey. Do also tell Trey to do a Bigfoot cryptid profile.
Okay, thank you. I'm working on one.
Okay,
it's the final boss of cryptids right there. Once you do Bigfoot, there's no going back. That's like the best there is.
What's cryptid?
Cryptid is like the word for it's essentially what people want to say instead of like monster. Cryptid is like a undiscovered species of creature, undiscovered creature. I know I used to know the explicit definition. It's like a newly coined word that was coined just within like the past couple decades.
For Nessie and Bigfoot and the Abominable Snowman.
Yeah.
Okay, but
animals that.
Yeah.
It says animals that may exist somewhere in the wild but are not widely believed to exist by mainstream science. So there you go.
I see. Huh. So I couldn't be like silicon-based life form. Like it's got to be like one of these legends. What do you think happened to Barbary Dustin? Don't they talk about an ancient feud between the Starks and Barrington in the World of Ice and Fire? There are ancient feuds between all of the northern houses. The Barbary Dustin, last time we checked, is still just living at Winterfell, like waiting for the battle. Nothing's changed with her. And what do I think will happen to her? I mean, she'll probably die. Everybody dies.
I like your theory that the Winterfell roof is just going to collapse and just kill all of them
Yeah, I
unceremoniously.
definitely think that he put that in there as a setup. Like you've got this hastily built roof, and there's been a ton of snowfall that you could definitely like have that roof collapse. Um, he set up a lot of these like red wedding kind of situations. Like there's the shield hall at the wall where all the wildling chieftains are in, and it's a fire trap because there's all these cobwebs everywhere, and
Oh yeah.
and then it's like this happened in the show, but everybody, all the cowls were in that tent. We're all in the tent, and Danny burned it, and it's like, well, some people are like, oh, that's a really dumb idea. I was like, well, it's kind of foreshadowed in the book, so I can't say it's completely dumb. Like he loves bringing these things up. In fact, there's a scene in Storm of Swords where I think Daria recommends to Danny that they have a meeting in which all the leaders are brought together, and then she just kill them.
Hmm.
And she doesn't do it, though previously she had gotten people drunk, and then attacked while they were drunk. So that was very Red Wedding-ish already. Um,
Hmm.
so these things do happen. George does, like, it seems, having put all the characters in one place and then have them killed. Or I guess we saw it in the show as well a second time with the sept being blown up and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Good way to lazily just get rid of everybody. But it's like, you've made so many fucking characters. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Right. You just gotta kill them off at a certain point. I
Right. I
guess, I
mean,
guess Barbary Dustin. Oh, sorry, you go first.
I was like, you could spend like several books killing them off one by one, like the Brave Companions. But I mean, it takes a long fucking time.
We got to hunt down each one of them. We got to get Pig and all those random ones that barely get names.
That's right. What were you saying about Barbara Dustin?
Oh, I was just gonna say that it seems that she's definitely like a scheming character in that she has like anti-Bolton sympathies.
Mm.
So I could see her leading like a coalition that's going against the Boltons, because she like during like the meeting with all the lords, she brings up like Lady Hornwood and stuff, and all the bad things that the Boltons have done,
Mm.
and she does it almost randomly. So it seems like she has these negative ideas and she might be scheming against them, I guess.
I do feel like George creates a lot of these characters of like, I've lost everything and the only thing I have left is revenge, so I'm going to kill you all kind of ideas. Um,
Right.
but if you have that like mindset, and then we'd look at the Children of the Forest, and you'd be like, well, are the Children of the Forest like trying to help us, or are they just like, fuck it, like, fuck all of you guys, you guys can die? like in the show, we get this idea that like they really fucked up, they were treated bad, and then they tried to kill everybody, and then they felt bad about that, and they're trying to help Bran because they fucked up. But so maybe we could have that same kind of situation with Barbary Dustin. Like, she was really bitter against the Starks for taking her husband and not marrying her and things like that. And so she theoretically wants to kill them all, but then right at the end she's like, ah, fuck, no, that was a bad idea. Maybe change of heart. I don't know. We do get
She
this
is
like
an interesting.
this
Oh, sorry,
dangerous
sorry.
like dangerous widow concept, right?
Yeah, she does hate those Ned Stark bones, so maybe those will come up again.
Oh yeah. I mean, the bones gotta come back. Bones gotta come back at some point. Um Thoughts on feeling your Daenerys one plan needs to be divided into two chapters? It's great, but also quite a lot, especially the opening. I think if it gets too long, I think we could definitely break into two chapters. Like at first, so my general idea about Daenerys is that like, so um in was just like, okay, mapping out the book, Daenerys kind of needs to go to Vastoth Rock, Karth, back to Marine, maybe Volantis, and then land on Westeros. So each of those could be a chapter. But then it's like, well, they don't have to be one chapter. I mean, if I look at Slaver's Bay and Danny's like progress in Slaver's Bay, it's not like it went one chapter Astapor, one chapter Yunkai, one chapter Marine. It didn't do that. They spent one chapter in the ocean, two chapters in Astapor, only one chapter in, is it one chapter in Yunkai, and then 3 or 4 in Marine, 3, you know?
That sounds right. One chapter in Yukai. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's perfectly fine, you know, to have 2 in Vastothrak and 1 in Karth and, you know, 1 in Marine again or whatever. So I think if it gets long, yeah. I've been going through the material and like, you know, already there's some like people have already submitted like chapters and they're already like pretty good, you know? I'm like, whoa, like this is, and it's like, it hasn't even been 2 weeks, you know? And I was like, whoa, like this is, some people really like immediately got down to it and like wrote some stuff. And it's like some of the stuff is really good. And so, and this point, you know, like obviously it's not George R. R. Martin level, but you know, we haven't even got to like, you know, merging and working on it and trying to make the language, you know, sound a little bit more George and stuff like that, you know. So it's a solid start. It's a solid start. I'm very, very impressed with what's come in already. So it's more than I thought. I mean, somebody posted something that was actually my thought. They're like, okay, Preston, you've got you know, 160,000 some subscribers, but you know, how many, maybe 16,000 are going to see this. And then maybe like 160 are going to be really interested, but they're not really gonna, you know, submit chapters because, and then you'll get maybe like 2 or 3 people submitting chapters. And it's like, no, so far, like already so far, there's been a dozen people who have like submitted stuff. So by the end of 2 weeks, it's probably going to be a lot of people that have submitted stuff. So it's we're gonna have some great ideas and some great writing in there. So it's and granted it's the first one. I mean, maybe like later on, you know, maybe there'll be less interest in the Arya Hota chapter. I don't know, but
That's awesome though.
yeah.
You're gonna find some hardcore Arya Hota fans. Just love him.
He's the best. He's the best. I was checking on something. Yeah. Is there anybody in the world where Arya Hota is their favorite favorite character? I don't think there can't possibly be a single person that Arya Hota is their favorite. not in earnest. Do you have any theories on Sir Shadrach, the Mad Mouse in the Vale, or is he just what he seems, a hedge knight looking for Sansa? Hedge knight looking for Sansa, who's supposedly working for Varys. A lot of people do have random theories on it, but I've never really put more thought into it, except that he's just kind of the self-interested a guy. I mean, I don't necessarily think he would hand her over in the end. Like that's kind of like, oh, I'm going to go out there and try to make some money, and then maybe he'll have like a change of heart or realize that there are more important things in this world. But the one could even look at him as another parallel of Jorah, right? Like Jorah got involved with Daenerys for money, you know, like to get by, and then his motivations changed. So you can definitely kind of, you know, similar things can happen with him. But he's a great, you know, it's funny, you know, for a guy who doesn't have very much screen time or page time, a lot of people are really attached to the Mad Mouse. So it's so I like him too. I can't say he's not a person I'm rooting for and thinking like, oh, I hope I see more of him and hope he has a good role going forward, you know. But he's not going to be in the jousting, so he's not going to be one of Sweet Robin's winged knights, but he might still be in the army or doing something. So we'll see. I mean, I think he's going to linger for a while and bide his time versus stealing Sansa immediately. You know, I think there's just too much interesting stuff that the Vale army is doing that you can't have them like steal Sansa and leave the Vale. That'd be a little off topic. If you're anything by Cormac McCarthy, at 88 years old, he's releasing 2 books by the end of the year.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
That's insane. Oh man,
That's even older than George, right?
George is 73.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
70. Oh damn, he's way older. Dang.
Yeah. Cormac McCarthy is an American writer who wrote 10 novels, 2 plays, 5 screenplays. He's mainly known for Sutri, Blood Meridian, the Border Trilogy, No Country for Old Men, and The Road. I think people know those ones. Yeah.
Oh dang, he's accomplished. Dang.
Yeah, but when you start thinking about, okay, he's 88 now, and so that means No Country for Old Men was 2005. So he did that in his mid 70s. So, you know, some people's minds don't fade as much as others, you know. But we'll say that, you know, Alzheimer's is only described as early loss of memory, you know, like essentially we expect old people to lose their memory, you know, and if one's in 88, you expect somebody to be gone. But certainly my grandpa died at 88, and you know, he was not as sharp. Well, he could still play bridge, because that was the thing he did all the time. So he could still play bridge like as a master, but like he would forget all sorts of things, you know. I was just remembering
my grandpa's.
How old is he?
Oh, my grandpa's 96, and he I know, it's amazing. I'm like, wow, he was born in 1926, something like that. He's crazy, but like you're right that like he's not altogether there. Like he'll just randomly start talking about with like really really sharp memory something that happened in like the 1930s or 40s, but like he struggles with like stuff that's happening right at the time, like at the moment.
I remember the last time I really saw him was my sister's wedding. This is many years ago, but I remember that he was going to my aunt and saying like my aunt and uncle and saying like, oh, I need to get back to the room, so I need the key. And they're like, you have the key. It's in your wallet. It has a pizza on it. And like the look on his face was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Now, what they meant was like, it was a key card and it had a Domino's pizza ad on it because they put ads on key cards. And so there was a pizza on his card. And so they're sitting there saying, you have a key, it has a pizza on it. And I was just thinking like in the mind of like somebody who's like, you know, key cards were fairly new at the time. I think they'd been around maybe 10 years, but he's thinking about a key. And you're telling me that my fucking key to my room is in my wallet with a pizza on it? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, keys in your wallet, it has a pizza on it. Jesus. Poor guy.
That's really funny. Just picturing what was going on in his mind. This iron key that just has like a pizza shape on it.
He was just standing there blinking. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what? I knew immediately, like, oh God, like just tell him like there's a card in your wallet that's your key, and the key is a card, you know, but they kept saying like your key is in your wallet and it has a pizza on it. And he's just like Fire and Blood is going to be a coronation gift to indoctrinate Duncan Targaryen to Old Town Power as a pulling. Oh, I think we got is this let's see here, hold on a second. Where I've got to I've shifted my there it is. Let's hello. Carmine?
Oh, it's the main man.
No,
When are we gonna get to the spicy politics?
It's there he is.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I didn't want to stay past past midnight Eastern, so we'll see. We'll see. I still had a few super chats here that were interesting, but I don't know. I mean, not much has changed since last week, really. I mean,
Oh, by the way, real quick, I have to mention this because it's just so you've been getting a couple of things wrong in like the last couple of minutes, and I love how I love how Dragon Demands has been correcting you every time you say something wrong. Like how you said how the Klingon are all warriors. Like when do they have time to invent the warp drive? And so he corrected you. Actually, the Klingons conquered races with warp drive. So he got you there. As for the Enchanto thing, the girl with super hearing, according to Dragon Demands, she did mention how she could hear him sneaking around. So
I know that she said that, but like it still doesn't make any sense that she wouldn't. Like she mentions at the end, like I knew he was in the wall the whole time, and I was like, did you? Why didn't you go talk to him over the course of fucking 10 years? Like,
actually, Dragon Demands. He's telling me right now privately that he's going to make another channel called Dragon Demands Consistency, where he's going to call you out for all the wrong things you said.
Also, like the Klingon shit. First of all, if that happened, that was in some sort of book, okay? Because it was never in any episode of Trek. But the idea that like someone with a warp drive lands on your fucking planet and then you conquer them, how are you going to replicate it? Like you can't just have you have to have at least the technology to be able to like research it and replicate it, which means you're still going to have scientists. Like you still can't be warriors, you know? Like what's the difference? What's the difference between like them coming up with it on their own versus like conquering some ship and then looking at it and trying to figure it out? Like imagine if I stole a car. Like this is equivalent of like me stealing a car and being like, okay, gonna build myself a fleet of cars. Like really like I've only studied MMA. I'm an MMA fighter, but I've got this fucking car and I'm gonna make a fucking fleet. Really MMA fighter? Like it doesn't really change anything if they conquer a race that like had the technology. You still need scientists to like figure it out. Like they could have just figured it out in the first place. Oh man. The but yes, I did know that when I said the Encanto thing that somebody would say that.
Is that how you pronounce it? Encanto? I thought it was Enchanto because I'm an American asshole. Is that Encanto?
How do you say it in Brazilian, in Portuguese?
I don't know. Enchanto? I have no idea.
Enchanto? Oh, really? If something is enchanted, what do you say? Like, you've never said that?
I'll have to contact the other exiles of Brazil.
You've never said, "Oh, mom, this churrascaria is heavenly. It's Encanto." Like,
actually pretty good. Good shit.
You've never said that.
No, I've never said it to my mom. No.
This, what's the alcoholic drink? The sweet alcoholic drink?
Is it cachaça?
Yeah.
Probably saying it wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, the cachaça. Like, this is Encanto.
I'll get back to you on that.
That's all you guys eat every day.
Be fucking careful here. Be fucking careful because you're gonna make the Brazilians crawl out of their holes and they're all gonna come out in force. Please don't do this to me. Fucking hate when they pop up in the chat. I hate it.
First of all, Brazilians are too friendly for that. They would just go boom and do a thumbs up emoji, and that would be it. Okay? They would go boom. Because that's
You mean, are you trying to say good? Is that good in the language? Bon? Oh yeah, that's it. No, you're right. You're right. You're right. As you were. I'm so sorry, Levi. Hartley. So sorry, buddy.
All right. Let's I feel bad. So let me quickly get through some super chats, but I won't be able to do many more after this. because I gotta go at noon, so I got about 20 minutes. Fire and Blood was going to be a coronation gift to indoctrinate Duncan Targaryen to the Old Town powers, pulling a king away from the influence of Bloodraven. Yeah, there was some talk about originally how far Maester Gildain was going to survive and what the purpose of Fire and Blood was. And so originally he didn't want to have Fire and Blood cover Summerhall because it would give away too much. And so they would just be like, well, it'll end at the right before Summerhall, and that'll be the end, and Gildain will be dead at that point or something. And then they retconned it, and they're like, well, wait, we want to write a little bit more for the world book, and he wrote some snippets, and then he's like, fine, Gildain's going to live all the way until the reign of Robert, and so now Fire and Blood can't be released until after the Winds of Winter. But now, if Duncan Egg spoils Summerhall, you can release it after Duncan Egg, kind of situation. So there's been some changes. I know it's just been fluid. It's in flux. Do you think there are any missed opportunities by George in A Song of Ice and Fire? Do you mind sharing one? Missed opportunities. What do you guys think? Is there anything where you're just like, man, I wish there was more of that, and we're not going to get any more of that.
Part of me wishes we could see more of like the Westerlands or the Reach. I guess they're like places that are brought up a lot, but like nobody's ever visited them.
Yeah, that's true, and there's not much time to explore them.
Yeah, because we've been stuck in the Riverlands, and we're just sick of it at this point. It's just,
oh god,
there's not much going on.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That's very true. I definitely had some things that I thought were good things that I thought were missed opportunities, but they're escaping me at the moment. I mean, I definitely wanted more of Karth, and there's a lot of characters that I thought were great characters that kind of have disappeared. But there's still hope for the future, I suppose, with all of them. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough when it's not finished, because you're just like, oh, there's always hope. There's always hope of more, and you never know. But unless a character is dead, and then you're like, well, I guess that's not gonna happen. But yeah, I do think Karth. I know missed opportunities of the show. Like, I wanted more of like Grey Worm leading and like becoming like more of his own on that and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't know if it's tough but I think you're right. Like the Westerlands and the Reach, and it would be nice to know about those cultures. That's about it. Carmine, anything on your mind?
Hey, did you get my fanfic? My fanfic I emailed to you.
The one that you said was 2 words.
Yeah, it's the one where Littlefinger wins the throne. Can you put that in there? I'm
just imagining like we're in the middle of Vastoth Rock, and then they're in the middle of the ceremony, and Zekko's daughter is like eating the heart, and Daenerys is watching on, and then Littlefinger out of fucking nowhere walks in the tent. And you're like, what the fuck? What is Littlefinger here?
Damn fuck. Right. Oh, hello. By the way, I haven't said hello to Trey yet. Hello, Trey.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, what's up? You see, finally came on. I got yay.
I did.
We got
I'm here.
Trey was afraid last time. He was afraid he was gonna maybe say something embarrassing or whatever. We finally got you on. Glad to see you on, buddy.
Like he's got to accidentally praise Hitler.
Whoa.
There's a Senate Live skit where this guy goes up to accept his Oscar, and he's like, oh yeah, I'd just like to thank everyone. I'd like to thank my mom and dad, my producer, like all the actors, the director. I did great. I'd like to thank Hitler. I'd like to thank my sister and my kids, and the key grip was really fantastic. He goes through it, and then he goes back to his seat, and they're like, dude, did you just did you just think Hitler in the middle of your speech? He's like, what? No, no, that was an accident. I didn't mean, oh God, do you think people noticed? And like, yes, I think people noticed.
Think people noticed?
Accidentally saying something horrible.
Actually, Preston, be honest. Out of all the fanfics you've read so far, how many are actually good? Just between us girls here, how many are actually like fucking awesome? Because I always see and Trey, I know you don't do a lot of Ice and Fire stuff, but like in our comment section, people always have like the craziest, awesomest ideas. And so, like, Preston, out of the ones you've received so far, how many are like balls to the wall, fucking great?
I mean, I would not say any are balls to the wall. They're all really, really good, especially considering that it's been like a day or two of writing. Like, I'm just like, whoa, like this, you did this in a day? Like, oh my God.
No, they did not. They've been waiting for this opportunity for years.
No. Because it's like impeccable, following of the timeline. Plus, like little things that I kind of fucked up, like they made more explanation for to like make them work and stuff like that. Like a lot of thought put into them. They're actually pretty. They're pretty amazing. You know, but at this point, no, they're not balls to the wall because we have to work on them and edit them and put them in the right style. But like it's they're really good. They're really good. They're really good for like I've read a lot of fanfic. Okay.
I'll take your word for it.
Okay. I've read a lot of John Satin fanfic. And no, they're really impressive. They're really impressive, actually. So I'm pretty excited. Like honest to God, like nothing's balls to the wall. Like if something were balls to the wall, I would have been like, you know what, guys, one chapter is one. We're just publishing that chapter. Like, oh my God, this person is insane. Like, it's incredible. Sorry, everybody else. We found Ghost Rider. Like, you know, like I would have been like, oh my God, balls to the wall. Nothing like that. But
how do you think George's gonna feel about this fanfic? I'm sure he doesn't.
George isn't gonna. George, we're not gonna. Nobody's gonna. There's been plenty of Ice and Fire fanfic out there. I mean, you know, lots of John and Satin. But I don't think this isn't John. He's not going to care. He's not going to notice this. This isn't going to be a thing. I mean, come on. Like he even knows I exist. I'm not arrogant enough to think that he knows who I exist. That I exist. You know. It'll
be ultimate troll move if George like emails you and gives you like what is actually going to happen, and you're like, what? This sucks. Get out of here.
Yeah. He may remember me as the asshole who like kept asking him about Thousand Worlds stories at a dinner once. You know, he's got to have like a million assholes like me that start asking him random questions. So I'm just one of many assholes.
Next, not a blog like post he does. It talks about your project.
Yeah.
Need to pull the plug. No, I don't know. It's a bad George impression.
Let's see. Thoughts on your friend in Ukraine. I haven't heard from her. I haven't tried to talk to her. So when I say I haven't heard from her in a week, I haven't messaged her. But I've been, you know, keeping an eye on where she lives, and it's you know, it seems about the same as it was last week. So I at this point, I'm assuming that she's doing about the same as she was last week, which is, you know, worrisome and scared, dealing with like supply chain issues. But, you know, but yeah, I know everybody's curious, but yeah, I'm curious as well. So, but you know, I'll let you guys know if I find something else out otherwise. Thoughts on Fire, Desire, Conquest, Ice, Hate, Genocide. So we're talking about the A Song of Ice and Fire. Is the name is you know, clearly in reference to Fire and Ice, a poem by Robert Frost, and in that poem, Fire and Ice are hate and desire. And George has actually said this in interviews, like that it's kind of that same thing. But at the same time, it's obviously like ice and fire, like Starks and Targaryens and all of this. But whether it means conquest and genocide, I mean, it could be. I mean, it sounds like that, right? It sounds like war. Like war is just conquest and genocide. So, I mean, the story is about war, and it's an anti-war story. So if it's an anti-war story, it's got to be a story about conquest and genocide. But whether fire and ice specifically mean conquest and genocide, I don't know. I mean, I think I initially thought that everybody's got a little fire and ice in them. And so let's see here. Brandon Sanderson to come out with 5 books. It only took him 2 years. Don't know how he does it. Cocaine? I don't know. I mean, that was Stephen King's thing, right? Like Stephen King says he doesn't remember one of the books that he wrote. I'm trying to remember which one it was. Let me see. It's amazing that you could like not remember an entire book. Which book does Stephen King not remember? Anything coming? Cujo.
Cujo, really?
He says he doesn't remember writing Cujo.
Dang.
Wow. Okay. It's pretty amazing, right?
I mean, if I was King, I would probably tell people I don't remember writing It, because there's that one section of It that everybody likes to go to. That one I would want to tell people I don't remember writing because I was so hopped up on drugs. So you missed an opportunity there. You know what I'm talking about, right, Preston?
Yeah.
George is gonna say he forgot about Fat Pink Mast. That'd be something I'd say to forget.
How can anyone forget Fat Pink Mast?
Remind him.
Super unpleasant, I know, but I can't get past it. In writing the prompt with Dany is captured by the Dothraki horde, how much rape does she endure? I mean, this gets to the problem of like, you know, adding in there is something like weird and taboo about like rape and its presence in literature, and when people put it in, it's often felt as exploitive. And outside of it, I know there's a bad reaction to the Sansa rape scene in a Game of Thrones. So I mean, if it you know, if one really feels the need to put it in, like, you know, put it in, but it's just it's not necessary. Like, you know, if the problem is that it takes all the oxygen out of the room. If you write a chapter where Dany's raped, like, you know, everybody's going to be like, great, you know, we did a fan fiction and Dany gets raped. Like, that's all people are going to know, are going to say. They're just going to be like, yeah, this is what Preston Jacobs fans are doing. They're writing a bunch of fan fiction about Dany getting raped. And you're like, oh God, like, I understand that like there might be some realistic elements to it, you know, because of who the Dothraki are and everything. But it's like, if you put that in, that's all people are going to remember and know. Like, that's all people are going to say and go, oh, this is the chapter where Dany gets raped. Oh, great. You know, it's like the chapter of The Stand where the kids have a gangbang. Like, it's all people talk about. Like, it's like, you know, like, you can't talk about anything else.
Wait, what? There's a chapter like that in The Stand?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. So it's, you know, it's not that it's not that I can't see like linguistic purpose in it or it being realistic or things like that. But if you do it, it's going to be about that. And, you know, you're not going to be able to say anything else. So, you know, I don't know. It's tough. Drinking game, right? It's tough. Every time I say that. Was that the thing, Carmine?
You're going to kill these people, I'm telling you. You're going to kill these guys.
Can't write fan fiction because Dany won't be captured. Jocko saw Drogon and he won an alliance with Pono. He won an alliance against Pono. Pono invades Marine. Danny saves the day. So there's a couple things that make me think that actually like Danny's plot does go the way of the show and goes back to Vastoth Rock. So one, like we know that Danny's going to go back to Vastoth Rock because she has a vision of it in the House of the Undying. So she's got to go back to Vastoth Rock. That's pretty much set in stone. She's beneath the Mother of Mountains. A bunch of crones come out of the womb of the world. They bow their head to her. And they creep. It says they creep out of the water, which is a little weird. So we know she's going back to Vastoth Rock. And then in the last Daenerys chapter of A Dance with Dragons, it's mentioned that Drogon returns to Dragonstone at sundown, by nighttime. And the sun is setting. She says that the west is glowing at the end of the chapter. So the idea is that, yeah, Drogon is with her until that sun fully sets, and then he's gone. So, I mean, she may have a few minutes, but, he's supposed to go back. So those two things do make me think that, like, it's going the way of the show. Now, about Jocko and Pono, it's true that Jocko's Khalasar is also really, really big. It starts out as the bigger Khalasar, and then later Pono's ends up being bigger in the writing. But, I'm also trying to think about, like, Pono invading Marine. Like, last time we saw Pono, he was at the headwaters of the Celsores River. That was in Tyrion. I got to bring up a map of Essos here. Deep-a-doo, beep-a-doo. Okay. Okay, so let's bring up this map of Essos. So he's like, if you see Volantis down here, he's like up at the tip of this. I'm not sure if my cursor is very big. I need to change the options of making my cursor larger. But he's like the river to the east of Volantis. He's like up there. And so it's like he could, go around Slaver's Bay, or he could head towards Slaver's Bay, but that's the Demon Road. And so do you really want him going along the Demon Road? So he'd have to go up into the Dothraki Sea and over to avoid the Demon Road and those mountains. And by then he's just like fucking close enough to Vastoth Rock anyway, that it's a very long trip. It's actually kind of longer, even though it's a long trip for him to get back to Vastoth Rock, it's even longer for him to go to Marine. A little bit longer. I'm not saying it's massively longer, but it's a little bit longer. So there's little things like that. But I mean, there is some setup. I admit that there is some setup that in A Dance with Dragons that of the Dothraki invading Marine. Like they do kind of, the Giscari forces are just kind of on the northern bank of the river, pretty vulnerable to anybody sweeping down, much like Stannis' forces at the Battle of the Blackwater. So don't get me wrong, it's not that there's not hints that a Dothraki invasion could wipe them out, because there are. So I mean, if somebody's, this idea that she gets Jocko and then he sweeps down and takes Marine, and then for some reason they go back up to Vastoth Rock, that would be a logical course of events, but I just don't know why Danny would want to go back up to Vastoth Rock. Let me send or buy digital copies of an enigmatic fantasy book series for you. I owe you one for your economics books by Schelling. All great content. R. Scott Baker's Darkness That Comes Before. All right, sounds pretty good. Let's see here. And Angela, on the downer subject of rape, I don't think any female POV character should be raped. Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's really, really difficult. That's the thing, is like, if you are, the way I feel about some of the like risque subjects, like, it's not that I don't think that like it can be done and not be, well, but you've got to be really fucking good. You've got to be really fucking good at what you do to get away with it. I was trying to think about, I know this, Louis C.K. Like I know people, Louis C.K. is out of favor for masturbating in front of people, but like, a lot of people say, oh, like rape can never be funny, and he has this whole joke about rape never being funny, and he's like, rape is absolutely not funny. No one should ever make a joke about rape. He's like, because no one should be raped, and he's like, unless, and then he's like, unless you really want to have sex with someone and they don't want to have sex with you. And like, his delivery is better and everything, but I just laughed at the ridiculousness of that like joke. Like you're making the exception of rape being rape, like it's so weird. I can't deliver it. When I heard it, I laughed and I was like, okay, he got away with it. He got away with a rape joke, but you've got to be really fucking good at your craft. You have to be a master of your craft. And Louis C.K., like he's a horrible person masturbating in front of people, but he's a master at stand up, and he nailed that joke in my opinion. But you got to be a master. You got to be a master of the craft if you're going to be doing something like that. So I think, yeah. So it's I just don't think.
Any thoughts on that joke, Trey? Any thoughts on that joke?
I got no thoughts.
I mean, it's all about delivery, but like it was just.
I think George Carlin made a joke like that too.
Yeah, I do think he did.
The delivery, catching you off guard, is
right. Like I'm not a master stand-up person, so I'm gonna deliver it, and it's gotta fucking be horrible, right? Like, but if you're a master at joke delivery, you can probably you can deliver something like that. Like, I was thinking about Anthony Jeselnik, the stand-up comedian. Like he does a lot of like dead baby jokes, and like he even did some pedophilia jokes and stuff like that, and like from somebody else, like when they're not funny, when you land them poorly and they're not funny, you look like an idiot. But like he's so fucking good that that like he can nail those jokes and you get away with it. Like if you that's the thing, is if you nail the joke, you get away with it, right? But if you actually make somebody laugh, you get away with it. But that's the way art is, right? Like for some reason, like this is why Michael Jackson got away with, like he made a bunch of hits, and so people forgave him. If you succeed in the art, you get away with shit. But Glytus thinks that I nailed it. That I'm a master. Fucking master stand up. But yeah, I mean, I don't even think that there's necessarily an exact secret to like humor. Like if it's true, it's funny. If it's not true, it isn't. Like, it's the ridiculousness of something. If you can really catch somebody in the ridiculousness of it, because obviously like that Louis C.K. joke is in the ridiculousness of it all. There can be something ridiculous that's funny. That's not necessarily true, but so ridiculous that it makes somebody laugh. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. He's deplorably depicted. It's hard. It's because like what are you trying to get? What are you people start thinking about the motivation of the artist. Like, why is this person doing something? Like, what are they trying to get? Are they trying to shock people? Is it a cheap way to get? It's kind of, maybe it's the equivalent of poo jokes, right? Like poo jokes are just lowbrow and easy. Or going to a diner and having a meal that's super greasy and super salty. Like it's the easy way to make something taste good is by making it greasy and salty, right? So you don't want to take the easy route. So that's all. Yeah. But I do agree that absurdity can be hilarious if it's the right thing. So I don't necessarily think there's one secret to humor, even in the sense that like sometimes humor is leading people expectations in one way and then reversing those expectations. So like the simplest joke is take my wife, please. You know, because you're saying, oh, take my wife.
That's that boomer humor,
Please.
though. I hate my wife jokes.
No, but it's a linguistic one, right? Like, well, so I've got these problems. Take my wife, please. You know, like that's the joke, right? Linguistically, take my wife is like, as an example, you say take my wife, and you're supposed to tell a story about something that happened with you and your wife, right? Like that's the linguistic purpose of take my wife. You're expecting one thing, and then you added please. You've made somebody rethink take my wife, and you're re-examining that humor. And so I guess, you know, I would never do that sort of thing again, you know, like makes you re-examine everything, you know. So who knows? All right, guys, anything else before we close up shop here?
Bro,
You
no
guys all
spicy
went.
politics?
You guys all went. I mean, you guys all went super silent in our discussion of spicy topics in comedy and writing. But
That's a fucking minefield right there.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna.
Yeah.
yeah, it's rough stuff. Yeah, it's gonna be all about that when, you know, just.
Trey, are you gonna submit a fanfic thing?
Maybe. I don't know. If I have the time, I will. When's the deadline, Preston?
I said like March 26th.
26? Okay, maybe I'll do something. I'll do a little. I got my input a little bit, I guess, with the whole Sphinx thing. Maybe I could try it. It's good. It'll get me to reread the Dany chapters from Game of Thrones. So that'd be good.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of there's a lot of hints at the Dothraki. Like use that a search for ice and fire and put in call, and you'll see that like the Tyrion chapter is kind of like riddled with a whole bunch of stuff on the Dothraki too, on like where they are and stuff
nice.
like that.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet.
Well,
yeah,
Preston,
maybe
I have to ask you.
Mm.
I have to ask you this. So, forgive me. You know I love you,
Yeah.
but I have to say, when you do this whole fanfic thing, are you gonna put stuff that you want to happen in there? Because we've had these discussions over the years of what you want to happen at the end of Ice and Fire. So, are you going to go with what the audience has written, or what you want to have happen?
I think that I'm going with there's stuff that I think is foreshadowed that that I think is a little inescapable. And then there's stuff that I want to happen. And then it's kind of a balance of that. If I really want it to happen, I think it'll go against like what I think is necessarily foreshadowed. Like I think I think there is a bit of that. Like, so for instance, like, I'm not sure if George would keep Jon dead for all of the Winds of Winter, but I would keep Jon.
But you want that to happen. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Jon staying dead is like something that I want. Like, but then there's other stuff like, I'm not going to kill Arya off. You know?
Preston will kill Arya off for $100 patron donation. Putting that out there right now.
I'm not gonna kill Arya off as much as I think Arya, like, you know, I don't necessarily, you know, too crazy about the Arya story, but
are you gonna make her a super ninja?
Not leaping around doing flips, fighting Brienne, coming out of nowhere.
She's not going to be the Terminator being stabbed.
No, she's going to be like
secretive.
She's going to be a faceless man. She's going to be secretive and sneak around and stuff like that. That's the idea.
Because you know, far be it for me to tell you how to conduct your project, but because like I said, I know you very well. Like I said, you would want to keep Jon dead. Or like ultimately, what I'm trying to say is,
I would keep Jon dead. I would have like the epilogue be like Ghost. You know, like in the same way that that Cat is kind of the epilogue of Storm of Swords, you know.
But
Are
what
you
if
going
you
to have
get?
a prologue?
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about prologues.
Yeah, I don't know who. Some people think the prologue is going to be like somebody around Jane Westerling in the
Hmm.
Riverlands,
Did you say
because
it's going to be a maester?
well, some people talk about whether there's a pattern. So a Game of Thrones had North of the Wall point of view, and then Clash of Kings had Maester point of view, and then a Storm of Swords had North of the Wall point of view, and a Feast for Crows had Maester point of view, and then a Dance with Dragons had North of the Wall point of view. And so some people think, oh, if we go with the pattern, the next one should be a Maester. So it'd be like a Maester attached to like attached to the group that's with Jane Westerling, escorting Jane Westerling or something. You know, this is the 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 theory. You know, I don't know if there's too much to it. You know, because some people also said,
For
oh,
maester,
the point of view dies in 4 of the 5 point of view chapters, but not Chet doesn't die in his point of view. So like, what are you gonna, you know? So things can change.
well, for maester prologue, I would either be betting on someone writing a good Morrowind one, or someone writing a maester in Old Town right around the time Euron attacks, or like you said, maybe Jane Westerling's caravan, and then they get attacked, maybe by the brave companions. Who the fuck knows?
I had a quick question: if George R. R. Martin changed any of my philosophical political beliefs. I don't think so. Most of the things that you know, most of my lefty politics are you know, I had before before I read George. I don't know if I can think of much else. I don't know. Anything for you guys? Any political takes? Did you think about war a little more after
It's
reading?
more of a
I
question
don't.
for you, Trey, because you're a young guy, man. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know if it shaped me too much. I guess like I had a lot of the similar ideas that war is bad. I guess like that's like pretty general idea. Um, I guess one of his hot takes was that like medieval serfdom was essentially slavery. Like there's not
Hmm.
much of a difference between the two. Um, I guess is an interesting take.
Yeah, though I'd been, you know, people would say in social studies class that like, oh, you know, the people working in the North had it just as bad as the slaves in the South, like that kind of stuff, like that kind of
Yeah.
apology stuff, slavery apology stuff was around. So it's like, what is slavery, and is this just as bad as slavery? Kind of ideas. Um, I you know. Maybe with regard to like it's um maybe with regard to like connecting war uh and like it being all systematic with regard to like sex and gender, like, you know,
Mm,
George thinks that the entire system is interconnected, and so in order for war to stop, you need to stop all of these other institutions. Um, I don't know. I think it's
yeah.
an interesting point and something I'd think about looking into more, but I'm not sure if um, I necessarily believe that like war can't be stopped. That's the only way is to tear down everything. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I the things that stick out to me in his writings is like the broken man speech is really, really great. And then I really like the conversation between Jamie and oh gosh, was it the Blackwood Lord's son that becomes like a hostage?
Yeah, yeah.
They talk about like the feud between the Blackwoods and the Brackens and how it's persisted over so many centuries, even though like they share marriages and stuff. Yeah, that discussion's kind of interesting on why humans are still doing conflict and we do conflict even though we forgot the original reasons for why we hate each other. It's interesting.
After reading Ice and Fire, I decided to become a conscientious objector to the Vietnam War. It's true. But definitely does make you think more about it. The just you start thinking, having it in your mind, when observing like other world events and things like that, and whether or not. And so it puts you in that scope. I often say, so I was an econ major, and many econ majors have the similar experience that like they leave college not really feeling like they learned anything, but they spent all of college thinking about the world through an economist scope, which fundamentally changes like how you think about the world. Like you did some equations and shit, and then you forget them. So you're like, okay, I didn't learn anything, but you did spend 4 years thinking about human motivation through economics, and that changes how you like perceive the world by itself. So like an economist education is more about an economist mindset, and so like George R. R. Martin is more about like constantly thinking about war and sex and gender and slavery and masters and the purpose of marriage, like when looking at the world and things like that. So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go, guys. But thank you, Trey, for staying with me. He was with me the entire time.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime, man. Anytime. And thank you, Carmine, for joining me as well. I know it's this is when you normally sleep, so
Around this time, yes.
Anyway, and thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you guys next time.
See you. Bye.